A woman lies chained to a tree in the freezing woods, barely conscious, certain she's about to die after more than a year of captivity. She stopped counting the days. She stopped hoping anyone is looking for her. Then a stranger's face appears above her, and somehow, impossibly, he says her name. He doesn't know her, but he knows exactly who she is. She begs him to let her go. Instead, he grips her hand and gives her 4 words that will define the rest of both their lives. You're alive. You're breathing. What if the man who saves your body from a monster isn't the one who has to save your soul from what comes after? Today we're breaking down every twist in Catherine Cowles' romantic suspense novel Into the Fading Twilight, Book 2 in her Starlight Grove series. This one has a family of 5 broken brothers, a small town hiding a second monster in plain sight, and a survivor who refuses to be defined by what was done to her. Let's get into it. The story opens with a gut-punch prologue. Nova Monroe, chained in the woods, giving up after more than a year of captivity. She's rescued by Kol Archer, a U.S. Forest Service investigator who refused to accept she was dead when everyone else, law enforcement included, had officially closed the case months earlier. 4 months later, Nova is trying to rebuild a life in the small mountain town of Starlight Grove, living with her best friend Bray's fiancé Dex, and Bray's young son Owen. But Nova is drowning. Bray, consumed by guilt because she was the one who wandered off the hiking trail to photograph wildflowers the day Nova was taken, has become suffocatingly overprotective. She hovers over Nova's meals, monitors her every outing, and flinches every time Nova sneaks off to go swimming. In reality, Nova is secretly cliff-jumping into a freezing lake at dawn, the only thing that reliably makes her feel like she's still alive. We also learn the full horror of what Nova survived. Her captor, Travis Moore, was a sergeant with the Juniper County Sheriff's Department who used his badge to insert himself into the investigations of his own victims, savoring the anguish of the families he destroyed. He kept Nova alive far longer than any of his other 9 known victims, using her captivity as a psychological weapon against the whole town, even leaving a bloody locket on Bray's doorstep and playing recordings of Nova's screams to torment her loved ones. When Travis finally dragged Nova into the woods and chained her to a tree, everyone assumed it was the end. Everyone except Kol, whose gut told him something didn't add up, and who kept quietly searching for months after the official investigation went cold. Kol comes from his own house of horrors. He and his 4 brothers, eldest Wilder, silent Orion, tech genius Dex, and reckless firefighter Maverick, were raised by their great-uncle Waylon on Twisted Oak Ranch after discovering their father, Edmund Archer, was a serial killer who murdered women resembling their long-vanished mother. When the truth came out, middle brother Orion ended their father's life to save Dex and Maverick, who'd stumbled onto evidence of the killings. Orion hasn't spoken a single word since. He communicates only through sign language, which Kol taught himself, so his brother would never feel isolated from the rest of the family. Together, the 5 brothers secretly run something called the Hourglass Network, an underground operation that finds missing people the official system has failed, combining Dex's hacking skills, Orion's geographic profiling, and Kol's tracking abilities. It's atonement for a legacy none of them chose. Waylon himself is a source of comic relief and quiet wisdom throughout the book, an eccentric alpaca rancher obsessed with Bigfoot who nonetheless becomes the emotional glue holding the traumatized family together, and who's the one to finally call Kol out for hiding his feelings for Nova. Kol arranges for Wilder to hire Nova as a waitress at his bar, The Boot. There she meets Cora, Travis's former fiancé, utterly blindsided that the man she loved for years turned out to be a monster, and instantly feels a kinship with her as a fellow survivor of his cruelty. She also befriends Maverick, who introduces her to mountain biking as a healthier outlet for her anxiety, and falls hard for Kol's spirited 8-year-old daughter, Skylar, whose own mother abandoned her the moment she learned about the Archer family's history, leaving Kol to raise her entirely on his own. Recognizing that Nova is suffocating in Bray's cabin, Kol secretly spends weeks building her a private apartment above his own garage on Twisted Oak Ranch, giving her the independence she desperately craves while keeping her close enough to protect. It's a massive professional risk. He's still actively investigating Travis's remaining victims, and any personal relationship with someone connected to his own case could cost him his career. He does it anyway, even talking his reclusive, distrustful brother Orion into allowing an outsider to live on the family's land for the first time. Their bond deepens in small, devastating moments, Kol teaching Nova grounding techniques with bare feet pressed to the forest floor, gifting her a safety arsenal of pepper spray, a personal alarm, and a small taser so she can protect herself on her own terms. In one of the book's most powerful scenes, Nova finally works up the courage to ask for her first hug in over a year. Terrified she'll scream the way she did the one time Bray tried to hug her in the hospital. She doesn't scream. Instead, she climbs into Kol's lap and clings to him, and something between them shifts permanently. Meanwhile, a predatory true crime reporter named Reese Gatlin begins stalking Nova for a documentary, publishing invasive articles that dig up her painful family history: an alcoholic mother, a neglectful father, a brother in prison. Around the same time, anonymous, threatening notes start appearing. Newspaper clippings with "Never Forget" scrawled across them in black block letters, and later, a necklace crusted with blood and a note reading, "It's not over," left on her windshield. Right around the time a new woman, hiker Heidi Ingram, vanishes near the very trail where Nova herself was originally taken. Subplots build in the background throughout this stretch. Wilder's careful, protective attentiveness toward the fragile Cora, who he clearly has feelings for but won't act on. The strained, hostile dynamic between Maverick and Astor, a local rancher and therapist who was once his closest friend before something drove them apart, and Roger, the interim sheriff and Kol's friend, quietly falling apart under the weight of discovering his own best friend was a serial killer while being pressured to run in the upcoming sheriff's election. Tension boils over the night Kol shuts Nova out emotionally while working the missing persons case. Nova responds the only way she knows how, stripping down and cliff jumping into a freezing lake in the dark alone. Kol follows her in, fully clothed, terrified. In the water, they finally say what's been building for weeks. He's scared of how much he wants her. She's scared of being wanted only out of gratitude or obligation. They kiss for the first time. From there, the relationship deepens. Quickly, Kol reveals a vulnerable side of himself, asking Nova to tie him up so he can hand over control completely, because his own ability to trust was shattered by growing up in his father's shadow. Nova later asks Kol to do the same for her, reclaiming what it means to be restrained after a year spent in literal shackles, turning something that once represented pure terror into something safe and freely chosen. Danger keeps escalating around them. During a mountain biking trip with Maverick, Nova gets separated from him and lost in the woods, spiraling into a full panic attack as fragmented memories of her captivity finally start resurfacing. Flashes of Travis's voice, his hands closing around her throat, his taunt that, "No one is even looking for you." Kol tracks her down using skills honed from years of searching for missing people, and talks her back from the edge of the flashback. In the aftermath, Nova finally lets Kol cut her overgrown hair she hasn't touched since her captivity, sobbing through fragmented memories as he does it, and finally says the words she's never let herself say to anyone: "I love you." Heidi Ingram is found murdered, stabbed repeatedly, with another chilling note left beneath her body reading, "It's not over. It'll never be over." Then Piper, one of Nova's co-workers at the boot, vanishes too, her car found abandoned with blood at the scene. Kol formally steps off the official investigation to avoid a conflict of interest and, for the first time, stops hiding his relationship with Nova from his boss, co-workers, and the town, even weathering an attempt by his petty rival, fellow investigator Pete, to get him fired over it. Then the true horror is revealed. Cora, The woman everyone believed was Travis's grieving, innocent fiancé, shows up at Kol's front door bleeding from a stab wound, claiming the reporter Reese attacked her. It's a trap. Cora was never a victim. She was Travis's partner in atrocity the entire time, radicalized by her own history of horrific childhood abuse at the hands of her mother, whom she and Travis murdered together years earlier. After Nova's rescue and Travis's presumed death, Cora couldn't let it end. She's the one who abducted both Heidi and Piper, keeping them alive in a hidden cabin and recreating Travis's crimes in his memory. Holding Nova at knife point inside Kol's own living room, Cora unloads years of buried rage and confesses everything. In a harrowing climax, Nova fights back using fragments of a self-defense class she barely remembers, buying just enough time for Kol, who'd gone hunting through the woods believing Reese was the real threat, to burst back through the door and shoot Cora before she can finish what she started. But not before Cora manages to stab Nova during the struggle. Nova nearly dies in surgery, and Kol is forced to perform CPR on the woman he loves, repeating the exact words that first saved her life. "You're alive. You're breathing." Nova survives, though her recovery is long and painful. Piper is found alive at the hidden cabin, and Reese pulls through his injuries too. In the aftermath, Nova finally commits to real healing, starting equine therapy on Astor's ranch, working through her trauma by caring for a rescued, once abused horse named Twilight, and fully reconciling with Bray. The epilogue jumps forward 4 months. Nova is teaching yoga full-time, pregnant with Kol's child, and engaged to him wearing his great-grandmother's ring. A stone, he says, reminds him of her eyes in the twilight, the exact moment he first found her. The sprawling Archer family, including cake-baking Orion and the once ice-cold Astor, now engaged to Maverick, gathers for one more joy-filled dinner. Nova, a woman who once believed she'd never be touched by another human being again, is now surrounded by a family that touches her with nothing but love. Into the Fading Twilight is ultimately a book about what healing from trauma actually looks like, not neat, not linear, and often through choices that seem reckless from the outside but are really about reclaiming a sense of aliveness that was stolen. So here's a question for the comments. Do you think Nova's high adrenaline coping mechanisms were a healthy way of processing trauma, or something she needed to eventually move past? I'm curious where you land. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe for more full book summaries every week. See you in the next one.